YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. And basically what we're talking about in this video, we're going team by team through all the divisions. This one's for the NFC North. We're going to take a look at their cap situations, what it could look like, what it looks like right now, what it could look like going into free agency by possibly cutting some players that I think should or could be cut. Maybe trading players. We'll take a look at if there's any players I think that could be traded with these teams, what their value may be. So, again, we went through a lot of divisions already. We're going to try to rip through these. This is for the NFC North. And our subscriber goal is 20K subs. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. We got plenty of NFL and sports content every single day. Clicking the like button would be much appreciated as well. But let's get on to this video here. We're using this website, sportrack.com. Link in the description. We're starting with the Chicago Bears here. A little rough situation. It could be worse, but they're at only $5.4 million. The good thing is, pretty complete team. They don't really need too much. They do probably want to get some of their guys back. Adrian Amos. Do they want to get him back? I guess that's a question mark. He 2 years ago played very well. Last year, in no way played bad, but wasn't really the same. But definitely would still like him back, I'm sure. But how much is he going to ask for? May have to get a replacement for that. What's the whole Jordan Howard situation? There was rumors he could be traded if they got Kareem Hunt. They didn't get Kareem Hunt. So what do they do with him? I still think Howard's pretty good back. But looking at the top guys, they're going to keep all these guys. Trey Burton's a very interesting one that I want to talk about right away. I think I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the team. I'm pretty darn sure he's going to be on the Chicago Bears next year. Couple reasons. They just gave him a big contract. Going to be hard to trade. If they cut him, they lose money because of that contract. But my problem with Burton is, the whole anxiety thing. He missed games and missed the playoff game because he had an anxiety. To me, that's, I guess that's just me. Other people are different, but I'm getting rid of that guy. That's me. I don't want that on my team. The guy that can just sit out at any time. Doesn't matter how big the game is. Eagles game was huge. It's the playoff game, and they missed him. Very good player. But so if you could try to trade him for a late round pick, I would do that. I don't know if anybody's taking him for the reasons I just explained. Again, I think he's on the team. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's a little harsh, but that's just how I always been. So don't like the situation with Trey Burton. If you didn't know, he actually was out of 2 games this year and the playoff game because of anxiety that he was having. There's rumors that he didn't like the pressure that was put on him with certain plays, which is hard to believe because he was just on the Eagles and won a Super Bowl with them, had some crucial plays. So it's weird situation. I heard Kyle Long could be on the way out, was injured. The line was almost better without him. He can still play at a high level. But if he's gone, that freeze, they say he's $5.5 million, so that helps a lot. Gets to 10.9. If I have to predict, I don't think he's gone, but I think it's a possibility. I seen Trevathan could be traded. I'm not buying that. He was the captain of this team and number 1 defense because of not one guy, not 2 guys, a lot of guys, including Danny Trevathan. Here's one that's for sure got to be cut. It's Deion Sims. Way too big of a contract for him. Solid at blocking. That's about it. So obviously they can't get rid of Trey Burton and Deion Sims. You would think they would keep one. Again, I think they're keeping Trey Burton unless they can get a solid trade for him. But Deion Sims has got to be gone. $6 million doesn't really bring any value to your team. And it has to be a guarantee. Like, why would they not do this? In my opinion, that's how it has to be here. You have to free some space. You want to get some guys back. You want to go out and make sure that team, because they were a contender last year, even though they lost in the first round. You want to make sure you're a contender again, and maybe you're a better contender, more clear-cut contender. So you may want to go out and get some other guys. Usually you want to save some money for the draft, but the Bears don't have a first or a second. So you $2 to $4 million is all you probably need to save. $4 million, we'll say. So you don't. That's the good thing, I guess, about not having the high draft picks, because you have the talent already. Don't need that much. Could use some depth, and it kind of frees cap space. So other guy, well, you expect Cody Parkey gone, even though you lose money off it because a lot of guaranteed. A lot of dead money involved with that. Not a good contract they dished out there, but I'm okay with it, even with the type cap situation, because he cost you some games, but it's really not only that. It's kind of his attitude, how he was going on talk shows. That's one of those other things that just rubs me, that maybe I'm a little harsh, but rubs me the wrong way. Don't want that on my team. I don't think players in the locker room like that either. So another guy that's got to be gone is Sam Acho. Does get injured here and there, doesn't really contribute all that much. They need depth at the pass rush position. I think they can get more or better guys, and you save $2.1 million with that. They could trade Kwiatkowski. It's a long shot. It's not a long shot, but I'm going to say he remains on the team. But take a look at some teams he could be dealt to. Yeah, I don't know what they can get for him. Maybe a late round pick. I mean, he's solid. He's solid for a depth guy. I don't know if anybody would really trade for him, I should say. Maybe the Broncos, because Fangio's there. They're not bringing back Marshall, so maybe they can use a guy like that. They trade a 6th or 7th rounder for him, and then that saves just over $2 million. So these are moves you maybe don't really want to make, some of these, but they may have to happen. You're up to 14 mil, so I don't know if all these happen. I think the top 3 are going to happen. Deion Sims, Cody Parkey, Sam Acho. I think those happen for sure. If they do trade Jordan Howard, again, I'm saying he's sticking on the team, but if they do trade him, let's find a team that needs a running back. We'll say the Jets right now, possibility. Trade him for a 4th round pick. Maybe his value is a little more, but the Bears may get desperate here. He doesn't really fit the offense that much. I still think he can play and he can fit any offense, but so they trade him for a 4th round pick, frees up another $2 million. So you're up to 16. So these are just possibilities. Again, I think the top 3 right here, Deion Sims, Cody Parkey, Sam Acho, I think those happen. I really think those happen. The rest of them are up in the air. These guys don't get paid a lot, and they contribute. And then the other one, Trey Burton, I would keep an eye on, but most likely on the team next year. And then Kyle Long was one to keep an eye on as well. He could be gone. Cap figure is a good amount, so if he is, 5.5 saved. You're up to 22, which is a good amount, but you got to get replacements, got to get your guys back. Do they go for any? If they want to go for the big name free agents, they're going to have to do stuff like this. They're rumored to D Ford if he's not franchise tag. He can play opposite of Khalil Mack, and Floyd could be part of the rotation, because rotation is very important. The Bears did not have a rotation. They had an excellent pass rush, not really have a solid rotation. So they could be looking to get more guys like that. What's the safety situation with Adrian Amos? Do they get him? Can they not afford him? Do they get somebody else in there? We're going to see. We are going to see, but they got some work to do. I think it's possible to clear this up, though, as you can see. Moving on to the next team, we'll go with the Green Bay Packers. Why not? Packers are sitting pretty, I guess. They got 30 or just over 30 million in cap. Now, people think about the Packers. They think they don't have a lot of cap room because they pay. Aaron Rodgers might be the highest paid player in the NFL. We talked about Antonio Brown possibly going to the Packers, and people were like, well, they don't have, you got to think about their cap room. Well, we are. They got a good amount of cap room. Very impressive. And they're building the defense through the draft, which they did a very good job last year doing. So can they continue to do that? Can they spend this cap on the offensive side of the ball? Do they go and trade for an Antonio Brown? Do they sign a Golden Tate, a better version of Randall Cobb? They've been wanting to move on from Randall Cobb for a few years now. Do something like that. They always are good at making sure their offensive line's, at its best. Really wasn't at its best last year, but it was still pretty solid. So maybe they make some moves there. Maybe they draft guys there. They're very good at drafting those guys. I don't know if Clay Matthews comes back. They might move on. I guess that's tough, but has been playing good. So maybe if one of those top pass rushers becomes available and they know they can't go trade for Antonio Brown or something like that, then maybe they try to get one of those guys. It's somehow if a Clowney's available, D Ford's available, one of those guys, maybe they make a move like that. So, but it's good that they have. I don't know if they make those moves. I don't know if they're able to make those moves, but it's good to have this cap space. I like what they're doing. They're building the defense of the draft. I like that a lot, and they're getting the win now playmakers on offense, and that could work out for them with this situation here. So, I mean, Nick Perry could be cut. They just gave him this contract. I'm gonna go ahead and predict that he won't, but I think he could. Was hurt last year and didn't really play his best ball when he was on the field, and they just gave him too much money when they did this. What happens if they do cut him? You only save $3.3 million. So I think they get more because he's been good in the past. So I think he gets more of a shot. Jimmy Graham was not. There's a lot of guys where it's just like they didn't play to where we think they should play. With another year, will they do that, or do we cut them? If you do cut them, you save 5.3. It's tough though, because I think you cut Jimmy Graham if you know you can get somebody in the draft, or you get somebody, if you bring in like a TJ Hawkinson or a Noah Fant, something like that in the draft, then I think you're able to cut Jimmy Graham. If not, not the best market for tight ends ever. Another year, Jimmy Graham could be good, so it's tough. I'm going to say they hang on to him for now, but it's an option. Looking at some other guys, man, do they move on from Bulaga? Very good, but just keeps getting hurt. That could be a possibility. They save 6.6. The Packers are tough here now that I'm looking at it. A lot of guys that are like, do they actually do it? It's tough. Bulaga, I think they could do it. Maybe enough's enough there. I think he's very good, but seems to get hurt. Tramon Williams, I think they can move on from him. Save $4.7 million there. Any guys they can trade? I think Nick Perry could be traded if they decide they want to move on from him. I don't know. Bulaga, because his injuries in the past, he's 30 years old now. I don't know if you can trade him. Very good player, though. Some guys down here. Not enough of a cap figure for some guys down here. Do they move on from more? These are more depth guys. You want to keep your depth guys around. Can you move on from Morrison? I think you could use another inside linebacker beside Martinez. Oren Burks, I like that draft pick last year. Got a couple young guys down here that could be solid. They could use safeties through the draft. I think they build up through the draft unless somehow they're able to get one of those top-notch pass rushers in free agency. I think they build defense through the draft and continue to do it. I'm all for that, I think they look for the offensive side of the ball for free agency here and spend there. And they have the money to do it. They can clear some more. See, we're already up to 43. It's hard to believe that the Packers could have $43 million in cap space. These guys don't get paid enough here. So I think that's, a situation for the Packers, but it's a tough one to predict because they could easily be what they started at here. We can reset it. I had them up to 43.6. We can reset that. 30. Still a good amount, so it's not 100% necessary to cut these guys. I can see it being anywhere from a 30 to 50 range, which if the Packers play this right, they get the right guys in there, they can be a scary team next year. I think the whole NFC North, which we're talking about right now in this video, I think any of those teams can win that division. I don't think any of those teams are bad. I think really they all need some help besides the Bears, though, so that's the good news for the Bears. They're pretty... Which just a year ago, we thought the Vikings didn't need any help. We thought they were pretty complete. And then we're a year later and saying that they need help, mainly in the offensive line, and the Bears don't need any help. So I guess we just never know. We just never know what's going to happen the next year. But I think as we sit, the Bears are a more complete team. I think the other three teams, not a long shot at all if they can win the division. They just need a little bit of help. But moving on. I was going in alphabetical, but I skipped the lines, I see. So I apologize for that. But we're there now. We're here now. $36 million in cap. Similar situation to the Packers. They don't really need to make the room. It's not really 100% necessary because they have a good amount of cap. They drafted very well, mainly through the draft, mainly through defense from the draft. They got Kerryon Johnson on offense too, but got a lot of young players. It's really on the quarterback for them. Can he step up? Can he play his best game? Then that team can win the division. I think they're pretty solid everywhere else. Offensive line was beat up last year. They could use some guys there. Maybe he'll stay healthy. I think TJ Lang getting up there in 8. I think they hang on to him. I think they hang on to all these guys. I think they have trust in them. We already seen them make some cuts. Glover Quinn. I don't know if they... It's hard to see the Lions making it. Maybe they move on from Theo Riddick. I like Riddick. I like they use him in the passing game. Maybe they find a better duo to pair with Kerryon Johnson. So maybe they move on. I like Riddick though. Don't know if they do. I think they need another corner. They need another Darius Slay. That doesn't mean they get rid of a guy like Lawson. I think they hang on to him. It's not really necessary to cut these guys. In the Lions situation here, you could cut some of these guys, and you could be just kicking yourself later for it because good depth guys, if you do get, just because they're maybe not the best starters and you can get better, doesn't mean you can cut them because it's not like they're overpaid or anything. So depth guys, rotation guys, very important. I would like for Tease Tabor to step up. Some of these guys need to step up. I like Tracy Walker a lot. Kenny Galladay I like a lot. A lot of young players that stepped up. Deshaun Hand was excellent. They don't need to make a lot of moves here. Kennard, maybe they can cut him, save $2 million. It's not really necessary to do any of this. Again, I kind of like Theo Riddick. Where'd he go? we'll reset it. I think it's another team that I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make any more cuts. Glover Quinn, not that surprising. If I may have cut him if this was before that happened because he's not really playing the same, getting up there in age. But these guys, I think they would have done it already if they knew. I think they already know. I think it's one of those things. So I think they could look for offensive line depth. Don't necessarily need starters. Then they could definitely use a tight end. While they look for free agency, I think the draft, they could definitely use another corner opposite the slate. It doesn't mean cut these guys. It's not like they're overpaid. Could use some more, another linebacker, young linebacker. Don't really have a bunch of needs. I think they're doing this the right way. Again, I think any team in this division can compete next year. So it's really on Stafford, I think. Continue to draft well. Stafford's got to play better. And then it's realistic that they can win the division, go further than that. On to the Minnesota Vikings, last one of the division. Tough cap situation for the Vikings, $5.3 million. They have free agents like Anthony Barr, Sheldon Richardson, and Anthony Harris, who was excellent at safety for them. They're definitely going to want some of those guys back. It's going to be interesting to see if they can get the higher paid guys like Barr and Sheldon Richardson back. I don't expect them to get both. I think it's one or none of those two, honestly. I think Barr can fit any defense too, so that's going to be very interesting. There's been rumors that Rhodes could be traded. I don't know if it happens. I don't think it happens, but he was constantly coming out of games last year. Zimmer was not happy with him about all that, so kind of, I'm actually a Minnesota Vikings fan if you didn't know that, but I was kind of upset with Rhodes the last week. He sat out against the Bears. Big game. Like, how could you sit out that game? Was not expecting that from him. So wasn't too happy with him. Just a year ago, I thought he was maybe the best corner in football, and then after this year, not so much, but it's realistic that he can get back to being number one corner or top 3 conversation. But if you do trade him, you better get something good in return. I don't know if you can get what you want. That's the problem. I don't know if they can get a first rounder for him because teams are looking for more of the athletic corners these days with these different style offenses. So maybe that's why he wasn't as good this year. I still think he's a lockdown guy. Every time he's out of the game, somebody gets beat. Whoever replaced him gets beat. So it shows how good he is. I think he scares teams a little bit. They throw away from him. But, teams are looking for more of the athletic corners to be able to jump the quick routes. There's so much RPO, quick stuff in the NFL on the offenses these days. So I don't know if anybody would trade a first rounder for him. There was a stupid rumor that Rhodes could be traded for Antonio Brown straight up. Don't think it happens because I think the Steelers would want more. I don't think the Vikings want to pay Antonio Brown. They already have 2 solid receivers. Yeah, they need a solid 3, but they don't need a guy that they're going to pay a lot. So, which the Steelers could use a guy like Rhodes, but I just don't think it happens because of cap situation for both teams, really, or for mainly the Vikings. But I think he's on the team, but if they do trade him, they better get something good in return. A lot of interesting guys here. I think Riley Reef could be cut. What happens if you cut him? $5.1 million. I heard they can move him to guard, though. And just 2 years ago, he played very solid at left tackle. When they went to the NFC Championship game, offensive line wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. This last year was one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen. So Reef, they could give him another try at left tackle because 2 years ago he was solid. They can move him to left guard. They can cut him and save $5 million. It depends on how, who they want to bring in free agency. Maybe they don't want to go hard here in free agency. Maybe they just want to let it sit. Sometimes they do that. They don't like using the franchise tag, so we'll see if they do that. At first I thought for sure they would release Reef, but it sounded like they may move him to guard, left guard, get a new left tackle in there. Maybe they like Brian O'Neill at right tackle. I don't know if I would agree with moving him to left tackle. I think keep him at right tackle where he's playing good. So Reef's tough. I think they're going to move him to guard, though, because it is hard to come across the linemen these days. So you don't want to cut a guy like this. Somebody else pick him up. You got nobody to pick up. So I think they can hang on to him, move him to guard, give him another shot at tackle. There was rumors about Waynes being traded. I don't think it happens. I like Waynes. I think he's very underrated. I think he had a solid year. Probably played better than Rhodes did this year. Every year there's rumors that Rudy could be cut. Don't think it happens. I thought he was solid. He's solid every year. Not the most athletic guy anymore since he's getting up there in age. Don't think they cut him. Back to the top, Everson Griffin's guy I forgot to talk about. There's rumors that he could be cut. See what happens there. You save a lot of money. A lot of money if you're cut. But I don't think they pull the trigger on that. I just don't think they do it because 2 years ago, he's known as an elite defensive end, elite 4-3 defensive end, or damn close. This year, First 2 games, he has 2 sacks, looking like his normal self. Then that whole situation where he's out for a period of time, came back, and he was pretty terrible, honestly. Stephen Weatherly, the backup, was much better. So, which Griffin's going to show up? But if you cut him, I think it's realistic that the Everson Griffin that we know shows up and is back. He gets his head right, So I don't think you want to miss out on that. I do think they need more pass rushers, too. You need a better rotation. I like Weatherly. I think you need another guy. So you don't want to make it more of a need. So it's tough, though, because there's a lot you could save there. So very tough situation. I think Remmers can go. $4.5 million. I think that's an easy decision. Remmers, listed as right tackle, played a lot of right guard last year. But I think he's better at tackle. But you have a right tackle in Brian O'Neill. I think you're going to draft a left tackle. You're going to draft another guard. I think Remmers can go. $4.5 million. I think he can go. I think another one that goes is Sendejo, because you save $5.5 million. All of that right there. And you got to get Anthony Harris back, though. You got to make sure you get him back, because he outplayed Sendejo. I think Sendejo is good. He also gets a lot of penalties for unnecessary roughness, helmet to helmet. So I think the way the league's heading, not good for him. I think Anthony Harris fits today's style a little better. I think the reason Sendejo was put on the IR at the end of the year, I don't think he was actually hurt. I think he was just replaced. Too many flags on his part, too. So I think it's an easy cut. I think he could still play, though. $5.5 million. I think Treadwell could be cut. Rumors that he could be traded, a team that was high on him. A lot of people were high on him. Obviously, the Vikings were. He was very good at Ole Miss, so another team may think they can use. I don't know if the Vikings are using him right. Yeah, he needs to play better. He had some drops that he shouldn't have, but they're using him like the slant and the curl game. They even threw him a screen pass here and there. Like, that's not Laquan Treadwell. I've never seen them once throw him a goal line fade besides preseason, and he ends up, mossing a guy. That's his game. So he doesn't fit the Vikings. They don't know how to use him. So I think he actually could be good elsewhere. I saw there's a couple teams that could trade him for a 7th rounder, but those teams may know that the Vikings will cut him anyway. So very disappointing, but they need a different guy in there. And I kind of, even though I'm a Vikings fan, for Treadwell's sake, I still believe in him. I want him to be successful on another team. It's not going to be here. So he can cut him, and that saves $0. So we're back to adding him back. I think the only way would be to trade him or keep him. So maybe you can. So I guess teams don't think they're going to cut him then. It's trade him or keep him, unless they don't want him to take up a roster spot. I think the Raiders can trade a 7th round pick for him. I think that makes sense. 6th round pick maybe. Then you save $1.8 million. So there you go. I think that works out. Elfline needs to step up. I heard they can move him from center to guard, and then possibly bring in a guy like Matt Paradis from the Broncos. He can play center. I'm familiar with the Kubiak offense, so we'll see about that. These guys down here, I would like Ben Gideon to step up. I thought he was better in his rookie season than this last year. Kentrell Brothers, solid special teams guy. Not enough money here, but we're up to, by getting rid of Remmers, Sendejo, and trading Treadwell, we're up to $17 million. Again, if we've learned just now that if Treadwell isn't traded, he's probably not going to be cut unless they need that roster spot. So maybe take that away. You're over $15 million in cap space, which I expect them to have. So they can work with that. And then again, they could get rid of, if they do get rid of Everson Griffin, you're in a good situation, really. But then you're creating more holes. Riley Reef, pretty good situation, but you don't want to be kicking yourself for that one. I don't know. Reef's a tough one because, like I said, 2 years ago, played pretty solid. You can move him to guard. You can do different things with him. Maybe they'd rather get rid of Reef and keep Remmers because you save more money that way and you're still keeping a guy. But Reef's, I guess both are more flexible, but the Remmers, I think, is better at right tackle than he is right guard. We have a right tackle. The Vikings have a right tackle. Elfline might move to guard. Paradis at center if they get him. So I think Remmers is gone. I think it's that way. I think they're not going to drop that many guys because they know the risk. So I think right there, it's more like that. And we'll see about the Treadwell thing. So I think that's what we can look at here. I'm keeping an eye. Maybe the road straight happens. Maybe Everson Griffin gets cut. Very interesting. Linval Joseph didn't play his best this year, but he's still very good. That's one slight chance I would keep an eye on, but I still think he's one of the better D tackles in football. This year was nowhere near as good as he was last year, though. So, but I don't think the Vikings, they don't usually make those moves. If a guy just has one off year, still was a solid year, but it was a little off. I don't think they overreact to things like that. You know, they never really use the franchise tag, but they never let their big name guys get to free agency. Let's see if they use it with a guy like Barr or Sheldon Richardson. You know, it's a franchise tag. You're still dishing out a lot of money. Franchise tags kind of piss players off lately, so maybe you don't want to piss. Maybe the Vikings aren't a team that like to piss their own players off. So, very interesting. Very interesting. The Vikings, the Bears need to, you know, gain some cap here. Need to make some moves. The Packers, Lions could pretty much sit still. They're impressive situations there. I think the NFC North, it's gonna be good next year. No bad team at all. You know, I think any of these teams can compete. So that's going to do it for the NFC North. We got the South and the West to do. We did all the other divisions, including the AFC. We have plenty of NFL free agency coverage. We're going through by free agents, predicting their landing spots, where they actually will land. We did it for trade targets too, like Antonio Brown, Case Keenum, Nick Foles should be franchise traded. Lots of good stuff like that. We got NFL draft content too. Another mock draft, maybe next week, another updated one. Recently did a 2-round mock. So we'll see. Lots of stuff here at the Goat House. Please subscribe if you haven't quite yet. Clicking the like button, we much appreciate it as well. That is going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for everyone's support. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.